Have you ever felt that invisible pull inside you, the one that constantly tugs you between choices, between dreams, between heart and mind? That restless energy, that desire to belong and yet stand apart? For every Libra stepping into their youth, this is not just a feeling, it's a calling. A call to balance, to explore, to love, to stumble, and to rise again. It's a journey where every laughter, every heartbreak, every hesitation shapes the person they are destined to become. Welcome to the exhilarating chaos of a Libra's youth. From the moment they step into adolescence, the world feels brighter, louder, infinitely more complex. Everything glitters with possibility, friendships forming and dissolving, shifting social circles, fleeting crushes, dreams that blossom like wildflowers and falter like leaves in autumn. A young Libra senses undercurrents of imbalance, unspoken injustices among friends, imbalanced power plays in classrooms, unfairness in family dynamics. They feel it in their bones, when someone is treated unfairly, when a kind word is replaced by a casual put-down, when someone smiles outwardly but carries pain beneath. Even the smallest slight, the glance, the whisper, the joke that cuts deeper, rings loud and ugly to their sensitive core. And so they begin to navigate a world full of grey areas. Not black and white. They learn early on that life is often messy. They find themselves questioning, should I speak up? Should I defend the friend who's being left out? Should I stand by my beliefs at the risk of being disliked? Every decision feels like a balancing act. Their mind becomes a courtroom, weighing pros and cons, anticipating outcomes, considering consequences, not just for themselves, but for everyone around them. They hesitate and reflect, they analyze and recalibrate. This weight, often invisible to others, drags on them in sleepless nights or restless afternoons. Doubt becomes a constant companion. Indecision, their silent foe. But youth doesn't wait for certainty. Even as they hesitate, they step forward. Because Libra youths are drawn to connection like moths to flame. Friendships feel essential. Wild group chats at midnight, shared dreams under neon lights, laughter that echoes through empty hallways. They crave belonging, acceptance, warmth. They'd rather risk awkwardness than stay silent. They'd rather bend a little than shatter the fragile calm of their social circle. Sometimes they fade their own colors a bit just to match the palette of their friends, to avoid rocking the boat, to keep the peace. They learn early what it means to compromise, to negotiate not just with others, but with themselves. In that swirl of social chaos, something deeper awakens, a profound love for beauty. It's not surface level, lipstick shades or trendy outfits. It's the kind of beauty that pulses beneath the noise, the soft glare of city lights after rain, the smell of old books in dusty corners of a tiny library, the quiet hum of acoustic guitar notes in a tunnel at night, the way shadows trace patterns on concrete walls. For a young Libra, life itself becomes art. They notice the subtle symmetry in everyday chaos. A cracked wall becomes poetic, a broken fence a metaphor for resilience, a failing plant a lesson in fragile hope. They gravitate toward art, music that speaks of longing, painting that captures emotion beyond words, writing that scans the heart's tremors. They sketch doodles in the margins of rough notebooks. They curate playlists that feel like secret diaries. They dress not just to fit in, but to express some inner truth that words can't capture. With each creation, they reach for harmony, trying to reconcile conflicting emotions, trying to sculpt beauty out of confusion, trying to make sense of the chaos humming inside. And yet, that sensitivity, that love for beauty, becomes a double-edged sword. Every harsh word, from others or themselves, shatters a fragment of their delicate world. Criticism stings. Comparison wounds. They see their own imperfections magnified, the voice that cracks during a presentation, the clothes that don't quite match, the friendships that aren't as loyal as they seemed, the crush that never spoke back. Doubt seeps into the beauty they tried to weave. Maybe I'm not enough, they whisper to themselves. Maybe no matter how hard I try, I'll always fall short. That's when the world feels heavy. The weight of feeling, of caring, of wanting, but not yet being anywhere near perfect. Some nights stretch longer than others, as they stare at the ceiling, tangled in memories and expectations, imagining how life could be if only they were braver, stronger, bolder. Maybe they could voice their truth. Maybe they could chase that art of theirs. Maybe they could love without fear. But the shadows of what if and maybe not hold them back. Then, in some small, shining moment, they rise. Maybe it's a late-night conversation where they share a fear and someone listens. Maybe it's a canvas they've left blank for years finally filled in. Maybe it's a song performed at an open MIC, trembling hands holding the MIC, and for one brief second, the world goes silent, and they feel alive. The applause, the nods, the encouraging smiles, they stir something inside. A whisper, you belong. You matter. That's also when Libra youth begin to taste ambition, not the loud, aggressive kind, but a quiet determination shaped by balance. They don't crave fame. They crave fairness. They don't chase fame for applause. They chase meaningful work, something that lets them create, connect, heal, bring people together. Maybe that's in writing, maybe in music, maybe in community organizing, maybe in helping friends heal, helping family find peace, helping strangers feel less alone. Their ambitions are rooted in empathy, in understanding, in harmony, not in conquest but in contribution. They start building a vision. A future where they don't have to compromise their values just to survive. A life where success doesn't come at the cost of inner peace. A love where they don't have to shrink themselves to fit. A home where balance isn't just a dream, but a daily rhythm. But the road to that vision is still unpaved. Yet with every small step, each difficult conversation, every stand taken, each creative spark, they cast stones, building a path forward, brick by delicate brick. Of course, life being life, storms come. Betrayal from friends who vanish, or words they never quite meant to say. Heartbreak when certainty dissolves into silence. Disappointment when a door closes just as hope crests the horizon. Each blow shakes the delicate equilibrium they've spent years building. Doubt floods back. The inner courtroom debates again. Do I risk again? Do I open my heart once more? Do I step forward, or run away? For a moment they freeze. The world tilts. Pain feels primal, but also transformative. Old beliefs crack, raw edges exposed. For a Libra, pain doesn't just injure, it questions. It forces them to choose. Cling to innocence or forge a new strength. Choose naivete or cultivate wisdom. Choose forgiveness or retreat into bitterness. And in that choice lies the crucible of transformation. Some days they collapse. Some nights they cry themselves to sleep, clutching regrets. Some mornings they wake with bruised hearts and uncertain steps. But slowly, they start to heal. They build boundaries, protecting that inner symmetry, safeguarding self-respect, defining what they stand for. They learn that being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. That seeking harmony doesn't require sacrificing integrity. That beauty they crave doesn't need perfect gloss. It can be rugged, real, imperfect. That love can hurt, and still be worth the risk. That balance isn't static. It's a dance. A messy, beautiful, painful, hopeful dance. With time, Libra youth discover something vital. They are growing into their own kind of strength. Quiet, thoughtful, compassionate strength. Strength not defined by dominance or loud victories, but by resilience, empathy, and the courage to stand for fairness even when it's uncomfortable. Strength to say no when their heart says enough. Strength to walk away from toxicity even when it means losing people. Strength to embrace solitude, not as loneliness, but as a space for their own breath, their own truth. At night, when the city hums softly and the neon lights blur with mist, they wander in silence. Sometimes under street lamps, sometimes in empty halls. They trace their thoughts like constellations, mapping out who they were, who they are, who they might become. And in the hush of those late hours, amidst flickering shadows and distant cars, they feel it, possibility. A trembling spark. A subtle reminder, you are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become. And with that spark comes a decision to keep going. To keep balancing the internal with the external. To keep seeking connections without losing oneself. To keep dreaming while building, hoping while grounding, caring while protecting. To keep believing that though youth may be fleeting, values can endure. That though mistakes will come, growth is a path built not just by wins, but also by scars. The journey doesn't end in perfect symmetry. It never does. But maybe that's the point. For a Libra, perfection isn't the goal. Harmony is. And harmony, they realize, is living in conscious movement, sometimes swaying, sometimes steady, sometimes tangled, sometimes clear, sometimes quiet, sometimes loud, but always real. Always honest. Always true to the delicate blend of heart and mind. In the years to come, they may become more confident. Their voice steadier. Their decisions swifter. Their steps firmer. They learn to trust the inner compass they once doubted, the pull, the sense of right, the intuition that whispered stand up, be kind, be honest. They begin to speak out, for themselves, for others, for fairness. They build relationships rooted not in fear of rejection, but in mutual respect. They pursue passions not for approval, but for meaning. They love not for illusion, but for truth. And even as they walk through adulthood, through responsibilities, setbacks, dull routines, they carry with them that early yearning for balance, that longing for beauty, that fierce empathy, that unspoken promise that no matter how chaotic life becomes, they will always try to bring fairness, kindness, and lightness where they can. Because that's the gift of a Libra's youth, not a guarantee of perfection, but a foundation of integrity. Not a shield against pain, but a toolkit to navigate it. Not a promise of ease, but a vow of authenticity. So if you ever meet a Libra in their 20s, or 30s, or even 40s, and see in their eyes a quiet longing for peace, or a restless smile that hides deeper storms, know this: they carry their youth with them. The messy first friendships, the trembling first loves, the nights of doubt, the wild creations born out of longing. They carry heartbreaks and hopes, falls and rises. But more than anything, they carry balance, the delicate art of staying open, compassionate, and real in a world that often demands loud certainty, harsh judgments, and rigid edges. Because in the end, youth is not about reckless abandon. Youth is not only about mistakes or wild nights or unbridled freedom. For a Libra, youth is a sacred rehearsal. A rehearsal for life. Where the stage is ever shifting, the songs ever changing, the lights unpredictable. And the role is clear: to stand with grace amidst chaos. To love without losing oneself. To fight injustice with quiet conviction. To create beauty even when shadows linger. So listen closely. Feel the heartbeat beneath the chaos. Because the youth of Libra is not a fleeting whisper, it's an echo that travels. Through time. Through scars. Through love and loss. And into the soul of who they become. Let that echo resonate. And maybe, in the hush of your own life, when you find yourself circling choices, doubting your worth, craving connection, longing for beauty, remember this story. Because somewhere in it, there's a reflection of you. A chance to balance. A promise of healing. A call to rise.